Okay. In order to understand why surround sound headphones are a scam, you will need to understand how we hear where sounds are coming from. There are three main ways, three mechanics, which make that possible. The first one is the most obvious one, which you probably already know about. It's volume. It's pretty simple. If I do this, and I have something on this side, it's going to be louder on your left ear than your right ear. Quite simple. This effect, however, is reduced the further away the source of the sound is. So if I'm over here, the volume on each side is more equal. And this is what happens in games. Games do this automatically. They pan to change it. So when the sound is coming from the right, it's louder on the right. Or for you, the left and the right. This is no problem. There's nothing special about a surround sound headphone that makes that possible. The next thing that makes it possible is pinna filtering. The pinna is this flappy, fleshy bit of your ear is the pinna. The pinna is shaped in a really weird way, and this very particular shape allows us to hear the difference in the sound depending on where it's coming from. So if it's coming from the back, it's going to have to filter through this, reducing some of the treble and that sort of thing. If it's coming from like a little bit above and here, the way it's going to bounce is going to be different. That helps us just that little bit extra. And surround sound headphones can't do that. I'm going to get into exactly why in a moment. And the third thing is interaural time difference, and this is the big one. This is, if I do this, if I snap here, the distance from my snap is further to this mic than it is to this mic. Meaning, the sound will hit this mic first before it hits that one. Now these mics are, I don't have the ruler here, but they're about a little bit more than 20 centimeters apart, which is the average distance between human ears. You can't get that in a surround sound headphone. You can get it with a proper surround sound setup if you have a 5.1 or a 7.1 setup around you. The speaker over there will send out a sound and it will hit this ear before this ear. However, if you're wearing a surround sound headphone, this will represent our surround sound headphone. And this will represent our stereo headphone. None of these are good headphones. I don't recommend either. This one has too much treble. I don't think this is available anymore. It's an old gaming headphone from when I was young and dumb enough to buy a gaming headphone. Don't buy audio equipment from gaming companies. Not a good idea. They don't know what they're doing. Buy it from audio companies, and if you need an on headset mic, just buy a mod mic and attach it with a magnet. This will represent our surround sound headphone. It's not, but for now it will be. In here, when I put this on, in a surround sound headphone, there will be lots of smaller drivers around here, which means that when something is coming from there, it'll be played here. The sound will not come from the speaker over there, hit this ear first, and then this ear, right? Like that. Instead, it'll come from here, and it'll hit that ear, and that's it. It's not going to come out of this cup, travel to this ear, and spend some time traveling to that ear. It's just going to hit that one, and that's it. So you don't get interaural time difference with surround sound headphones. Some games have this built in, which is really the only way to do it. Counter-Strike has it, where you can enable this in the sound settings, and this means that if you're wearing a surround sound headphone and you're just using Counter-Strike in stereo, it'll just play the sound earlier here than it will here. So it'll simulate that. But that means that you can also just use a normal stereo headphone and get the exact same effect, because you can still just play the sound earlier on one side than compared to the other. Now, as I mentioned, the pinna filtering will not work in a surround sound headphone. I've made this wonderful, made this wonderful piece of art here to explain what I mean. When you have a 5.1 surround setup, the speakers are quite spread out around you, so that the angle will be quite steep when it's coming from the front versus the back. Whereas if it's inside a small headphone and they're cramming all these tiny drivers next to each other, the angle and difference is not going to be large enough, because you need to have the speaker be basically on the pad at the back for it to go through the pinna here. Most likely the speaker's going to be here and here. That's not enough of a difference for you to actually hear it coming from behind. It's just going to be played in on both sides. So that's useless. I'm actually not going to put this on because I don't want to be pictured with that too much. So pinna filtering won't work. Interaural time difference can be achieved with just normal stereo headphones. And volume is done in the game no matter what. Okay, well, is there anything else? Yes, it's way worse than that. You have to cram a lot of tiny drivers in one cup instead of just one bigger, better one. Not that bigger drivers are better always, but in headphones you have so little space that you're gonna have to make it as big as you can. I think, if I remember correctly, this actually has a 55 millimeter driver, and this is like a 50 or 45 or something like that. Basically, you get really bad bass. You get bad sound in general, because with a stereo headphone like this, right? We have the aux cord, or the, hold on, there you go. We have this, the audio jack. Very simple, very efficient, great little doobly-doo, right? You can just plug in, you get analog sound carried through as electrical signals, and it's played in the headphone. The amplification is done outside the headphone. The conversion to proper analog sound is done outside the headphone. But if you want to set up like surround sound around your room, you're gonna need to get at least six. You might, if you're doing 7.1, it's gonna be 8 cables for them. One cable for each speaker. If you buy a surround headphone, it's not going to plug in with 6 different audio jacks. It's probably going to plug in, as this one can, via USB. And USB can't carry audio, at least not USB-A. I'm not quite sure about USB-C actually. And that means what's coming through the cable is ones and zeros, as compared to this, which is analog, which can go from negative whatever to positive whatever. In here you get ones and zeros, and the ones and zeros have to be converted from digital to analog. That's done by a DAC. That red box right there, that's a DAC amp. It does both digital analog conversion and amplification of the resulting signal. Both ways, by the way, because that's for microphones, I'm using it for these, and for headphones, which usually I use to drive these. So when you have to cram that red box right there in here, in order to convert from digital to analog and also amplify it, in this cup, you have to put all that tech. And then also, you probably, since it's usually a gaming headset, you get a microphone. So you have to convert from analog to digital again with with a preamp on that. You have to get all that in here, along with some other dumb stuff like a volume rocker and a little mic mute button and that's an EQ button. I didn't realize. Okay, yeah, sure. You have to jam all that stuff in these cups. That's not enough space to make it particularly good. That hunk of chunk of metal right there, it's okay. It's all right. It's decent. It's not fantastic. It's decent. And even like, it's okay. Jamming it in here is not going to be good. So you're getting worse drivers. You're getting no proper surround sound feeling and no better resulting spatial awareness. You're getting, worse drivers, and you're getting worse conversion between digital to analog. You're getting worse amplification. You're not getting any benefits from using a surround sound headphone. But yet they're usually more expensive than the non-surround sound version of the headphone. So, stay away from them. Actually, I forgot to mention too, since they get the digital signal into the headphone, they'll often be tempted to, instead of spending a lot of time tuning the headphone properly, like they've apparently been doing with the new Drop and THX collab, instead of tuning the headphone, the resonances and stuff inside to make it sound good, they just build it and then they use a bunch of digital modifications called DSP to sort of fix it. That's very tempting when you get a digital signal into the headphone and then you fix it so that the headphone sounds all right, and after that you amplify and send it to your head. Just doesn't sound as good. It sounds terrible. So yeah, that's surround sound headphones for you. Stay away. Get yourself some good stereo headphones. Don't buy the M50Xs. They're not that good. And thanks for watching.